Gaming Morning Show continues. It is Friday, May 21st, 2021. Thank you for being with us wherever you may be, Facebook Gaming, Twitch, YouTube, and at gamingmorningshow.tv. We are very thankful to have a chance to talk this morning to Anna King, who's a reporter for the Northwest News Network. And Anna did a cool story that I found through OPB, and it's about the way that Oregon Trail approached kind of a re-release, if you will, with Apple Arcade, and we welcome Anna to the show right now. Good morning, Anna. How are you doing today?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me, you guys.
Absolutely. We are excited that you are here today and have a chance to talk about this game and kind of the way that the approach and the accuracies to Native Americans were handled in this re-release for the Apple Arcade version. Let's do this first. Let's talk about what you learned as you wrote this story. What's some of the takeaways that you had?
You know, I learned that I'm having quite a bit of echo. Let's see. I think it's gone now. Okay. So I learned basically that the game is still something that I love. I grew up playing this game when I was a girl in grade school, and I really had an affinity for it. And, you know, even though it was like so old school, it had the green screen and the huge, you know, Apple computers, and that got hot on the top when they would run for a while, and the computer lab would like heat up because all those machines were running. I just really love it still, and it was fun to report on this game and to really see how much effort they put into designing the game with an eye towards creating more accurate history, more representation for Native Americans, and more accurate depictions of Native Americans. And so it was really cool to see all the details of the game that they knitted in to make that happen.
Now, along with the effort to develop the updated version, you have this desire to make it more historically effort. Who helped out? Like, I imagine that this had to take more than just a development house. I imagine that this is something that would take a lot of people to get historically accurate. Can you describe what that process was for the creators of the game?
Yeah, so HMH Productions actually owns the brand of Oregon Trail, and they, kind of level that across all medium platforms. And then they worked with Game Loft Brisbane in Australia to create this new version of the game for Apple Arcade. And they, leveraged three historians, Native American Indigenous historians, to kind of keep them to count on this game and to really challenge some of their preconceived notions or just things that they thought would be cool in the game that really were not cool for Native Americans. For instance, they really wanted a bow and arrow mini game inside of the overarching game. And they thought, oh, bow and arrows are cool. The game designer, the creative director, Jared Trudgeon out of Gameloft said, bow and arrows are sick. They have them in other large games that are really cool, and we want bow and arrows too. And when he talked to the Native American historians, they were like, at this time in history, most Native Americans would have adopted the rifle or would have adopted guns as their primary tool. And so it's really kind of an old trope, a stereotype that we would have been using bow and arrows at this time. And so let's just not have bow and arrows in the game. And the game designers, to their credit, even though they thought bow and arrows are just kind of cool, they decided not to have bow and arrows in the game so that it was more accurate representation and not playing into those old tropes. Another kind of cool example of this was they kind of had some of this test music under the game running through the game, and they had some kind of new agey flute music going on. And the Native American scholars were like, whoa, 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 like we cannot have too many flutes in this, in this thing. It's kind of an old Western trope. It's just totally out of date. And it is true that there are some Native Americans that did use flutes, but we just don't want to hear all the flutes all the time in this game. And so, again, the game designers went back to the drawing board and came up with some kind of more current indie type music to play in the game, so that it does sound more updated and that it doesn't have that kind of new agey, old school feeling of these flutes that was offensive to the Native American scholars.
Well, we certainly appreciate you taking the time to join us to talk a little bit about this game. I mean, we're going to link through to the OPB article, and there's, I'm sure, more that's out there about some of the work that the studio did to get ready for this game. What I will say is we can follow your reporting and have a chance to kind of keep up with things, because you cover more of the Pacific Northwest as a member of the Northwest News Network. Was this kind of story for you a little bit out of the realm of what you usually cover? Describe that for us.
It's really different for me to report on a video game per se, but I have reported on Oregon Trail history before, and I have reported a lot on Native American tribes throughout the Northwest and indigenous peoples. And so this is kind of in my wheelhouse, given that. And I report on all kinds of things. My top subjects are radioactive nuclear waste at the Hanford cleanup site, which is a Superfund site with 53 million gallons of radioactive goo underground stewing. It's a big cleanup project that needs to be done so that that goo doesn't run into the Columbia River. And then I also report on agriculture and industry and just anything that moves outside in the Northwest.
Well, we will keep tabs. We will keep tabs on everything that you're reporting, and would love to have you back if you're able to. Anna King, thank you so much for taking some time talking Oregon Trail with us on Gaming Morning Show.
Thanks so much for listening to my story, and I sure hope you guys have fun with the game.